All right, everybody, welcome. It is 6:10, which means that you guys have been waiting probably 11 minutes longer than you should have. Some of you have been there for even longer. This is Adam Parkamenko. I am here filling in for Mary Trump today. My setup's a little different. The reason I was late was because I just spilled my entire drink on me and on my keyboard. So if my keyboard goes out, there's the awesome Lexi and Kyle helping us out. But basically, I tried to convince Mary Trump that she should take a Friday off, maybe 32 or 33 times, and she finally agreed. So here I am, but I'm so excited to be here with all of you, especially on a kind of a wrapping up to a very interesting week. We've got a lot to get to, so let's get to it. Let's start with the White House, where Donald shocked his own party by suddenly playing nice with New York's incoming mayor, Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic Socialist. Many of you know yesterday, the Republicans of the House came together and did a vote to show their opposition to the Democratic Socialists and socialism, even though Donald Trump apparently announced today that he is a socialist. Republicans have built their entire 2026 strategy around attacking Democrats for supporting him. And now Donald is praising the guy. So we'll look at what he said, why the GOP is panicking, and how Jake Sherman, not a big fan, summed up this mess. Then we'll dig into the latest Usha Vance drama. Some of you may have seen my early morning tweet today. The Post, the hypocrisy, and why the right keeps stepping on rakes with this stuff. We're also going to cover Congressman Eugene Vindman and his push to declassify Donald's 2019 call with Mohammed bin Salman. I think that's very important. And as you all know, not only are the Vindman twins, but Rachel Vindman, incredible patriots and incredible Ukrainian Americans. And a few other things. The bin Salman call, I'm really interested though, because he says he would shock Americans, and it would. This comes right after Donald excused the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, which was disgusting, and a whole new level of disgrace. With the casual things happen, we'll walk through the pressure on Ukraine to accept this U.S.-Russia peace deal by Thanksgiving. Following that a lot, my father is in Ukraine right now. This is a deal that Ukraine wasn't even included on, or risk, losing American weapons and intelligence if they accepted it. It's extortion dressed up as diplomacy, and we're going to break it down. So we've got a couple quick announcements, including Mary's Holiday mashed potato on Donald's head design contest. You all know the mashed potato story by now. I'm sure it's come up a lot, which is exactly as fun as it sounds to me. I'm going to have to get in on that. And as always, we'll close with tonight's emotional sport moment, which almost put me to sleep last time that I filled it in, and I was in North Carolina on the road. It was very divine. And then that's with a gorgeous look at NGC 602 from the James Webb Telescope. So with all of that said, because you know me, it's normally 3 sentences. Let's dive in. Okay, so if you've been paying attention and not living under a rock, although that's a pretty good place to be nowadays with the, again, Donald administration. I know we call it the Trump regime, but there really is a good Trump out there, and I'm filling in for her and proud to. Today at the White House, Donald met with New York City's incoming mayor, Zohran Mamdani. In a surprise twist, he seemed to take a shine to the young Democratic Socialist. It's kind of a little difficult to read too much into this. But as we know, Donald loves people that have a lot of excitement and energy. And, his poll numbers are tanking and so forth at 38%. So I think that this was probably played correctly by Mamdani. We've heard a lot of reports that he was preparing for it, but we'll talk more about that. But Donald even made it sound like they may agree on some issues when it comes to the Big Apple. let's take a look at Donald's, I would say, rare display and congeniality toward a left-leaning politician.
Yeah, okay, how about you? Go ahead, please.
You're a billionaire. You have a different address nowadays than you used to, but you used to call New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you comfortable?
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. You know, he may have different views, but in many ways, you know, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea because he was strong on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on. Tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought. And when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. And, you know, it just turned out to be a statistical truth. But no, I feel very comfortable. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting. Yes, please.
Okay, it's interesting to me that you know, Donald Trump spent so much time talking about Joe Biden and his low energy, and this guy literally sits in his chair the way he does at waist height and says everything he does. But there's a couple things that come to mind here. First of all, and we're going to have more of this, but Donald Trump still has the Trump Tower, among other things, even though he's, you know, moved and for tax purposes in Florida and all that. It's not a surprise that Donald Trump knows that Mamdani's poll numbers are through the roof, that there's a lot of excitement. Obviously, people are both sidesing this, saying they both talked about affordability. But obviously, as we know, Mamdani was sincere talking about affordability. He's actually going to do things, as opposed to Donald Trump, where you know, they're lying about, you know, soybeans being sold to China when they're actually getting things from Brazil, and we're bailing out, you know, Argentina with beef and so forth. Mamdani is the real guy, and I think this, based on the level of media and press, which we know Donald loves, as his poll numbers are tanking, we'll probably see more of these meetings. And it's kind of crazy to see Mamdani in the White House standing there next to Donald Trump, while Marjorie Taylor Greene is now, you know, walking the streets looking over her shoulder. The fact that Donald was even good natured about calling him, you know, a not so nice name. Let's take a look at this next clip.
Clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
So,
All right.
okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
So, I mean, I guess Donald could do this because he no longer had like the ball and leather rope in his mouth. But that to me was like a new level of Donald being a cuck achieved. And I think that we should use their language. I mean, literally, Donald Trump is sitting there saying, you know, being a beta, right? Being a soy boy, as Republicans like to say it, saying it's okay. You can say it. You could call me a fascist. I mean, he is so infatuated. I think what's really also pretty interesting about all of this is heading into this meeting, there were a lot of reports that Mamdani had done his homework. And Kyle, who's backstage, I was talking to him about this earlier. I was saying, you know, Mamdani is going to be sworn in on January 1st, 2026, which is kind of wild when you think about it. You think that they would give like till at least the second, maybe, in terms of New Year's, where like, you know, the big apples drop, the big balls dropping, and you're literally kind of like the main focus of New Year's. You might want to enjoy that night. This to me is a guy who probably will be there for, you know, the ball drop and then get some rest to get sworn in the next morning. But he got prepared, and he talked to, by all accounts, not some of my favorite people, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and others. And he went in there, and I imagine he probably gaslit the shit out of Donald Trump behind closed doors and really played him the same way that, you see everyone else playing him, whether it's the Saudis or the Egyptians or the Israelis, when they put up these big billboards when he comes to town. And Mamdani was perfect. I mean, I don't think there's anything else that he could have done. But the fact that Donald looked up to him and said, it's okay, you can say it. And he's like, yeah, he's a fascist. Those are balls of steel. Then a reporter pointed out that some Republicans might feel undermined by Donald's warmth towards Mamdani. Let's take a look at this clip.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning, and you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of
she's a very capable person, but you really have to ask her about that. But I don't particularly. I think I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again, and I can say again, because New York was great.
So we all know Donald Trump is and I'm not even going to say the word because it's offensive, but in other sense, keyboard warrior, likes to sit there, say whatever he's going to say. But that should humiliate Elise Stefanik, who is a terrible person. She has tied herself at the hip to Donald Trump for years and years and years. She has soiled her pants publicly doing this in committee. And she's out there doing exactly what she thinks Donald Trump wants her to do. And as she's doing it, he's humiliating her. And I've said for a long time, the one thing Donald will always do and continue to do as long as he's around is not only humiliate people, whether they are close friends or in their family, as long as it's not him. He doesn't care who it is. It can be his kids, whatever. He enjoys it. It gives him some type of gratification. I probably don't want to know more than that. So this is no surprise, but I also think we should put a pin in it and a little asterisk and basically say, look, 2 days from now, Donald might be on True Social attacking Mamdani, right? So, but the point is that this was a big event. It was well covered. Everyone was talking about it. And Donald needs something else other than Epstein to be talked about. And I think that's okay. We can, walk and chew gum at the same time and do these parallels. But Mamdani just crushed him. And you all know me from other stuff. I curse a lot more, so I'm trying not to. But this was, I don't even know what we watched today. This was, it was incredible. It was a slam dunk for Mamdani. And I believe Donald probably thinks it was a slam dunk for him. But really, if anything, all he did was humiliate the people that are out there carrying his water every single day, not just Elise Stefanik, but again, House Republicans who literally voted, to trash Mamdani in Congress and others in advance of this trip. Now, on Twitter, Jake Sherman, I guess we'll call him an independent journalist, or, a washed up Washington, D.C. journalist, pointed out how this situation creates a strategic conundrum for Republican candidates. Now, Sherman said, and we're going to pull up this, Trump showering praise on Mamdani in the White House may throw House Republicans for a loop. The House GOP has signaled their entire 2026 campaign plan is to be Democrats to Mamdani. Is to tie the Democrats to Mamdani. Look, here's the thing. I think one of my biggest criticisms of today, and I appreciate Kyle for flagging this because I had said this earlier. To me, the very weird thing, and it's something we should talk about, is that what Donald Trump said about Zohran Mamdani is literally what every single Democrat should have been saying about Zohran Mamdani the moment that he secured the Democratic nomination. And I've been highly critical of Hakeem and Chuck Schumer on this topic for a couple reasons. But one, to me right now, and I want to put a little asterisk here because I have some different opinions and thoughts about Hakeem. But heading into all of this, heading into the shutdown, going through the shutdown, we had two leaders, quote unquote leaders from New York. Okay. So without a Democratic president, and obviously, you've got Ken Martin at the DNC, but really, no one's technically in charge of the party. The people that are in charge of the party are the people that you like and the people that you lift up, whether that is a Mary Trump or a Gavin Newsom. I did not find it acceptable for Hakeem Jeffries to vote for a resolution in Charlie Kirk's name with Republicans before, whether he was going to do it at all or not, before endorsing Mamdani. And the thing about the Democratic Party is primaries make us stronger. And I ran for office a long time ago. I ran for the state house. It was a 5-way primary. And we all fought like hell and became really great friends afterwards. And the guy who ultimately won is still an incredible elected official in Virginia. Primary is a good thing, but we're Democrats, okay? And if you win the primary, we get behind you. Unless you're Donald Trump, okay? Then that's a whole other story. But the only Donald Trump there was Andrew Cuomo. Let's just pretend for a minute Donald Trump meant everything he said and he wasn't just trying to get good press today. His words are what we should have heard from Hakeem and Chuck Schumer and many other Democrats the moment that Mamdani won that primary fair and square. But with that said, you can see a shift because despite the fact that all these people didn't do that, and I know Hakeem ultimately did towards the end, Mamdani won. And he won because of a number of reasons. He's real and he's talking to people about things they care about. He ran a campaign that was very kind of counter to conventional wisdom and broke through to people. And I think it's time that we start realizing that, there's a number of people that have been telling us for years and years that they're going to hand off this torch and pass off leadership to this next generation to take over so that we can leave this country in a better place for the next generation than our generation found it. And they continually fail to do so. And again, on that topic, that's why I respect Nancy Pelosi's decision to kind of end where she ended, although I'd love to see her speaker again. And I respect Christine Pelosi's decision to run for the state Senate as opposed to her mom's seat, which everybody just assumed that she would do. So I think we really gotta get our shit together as Democrats. I know that's a little bit of a rant, but the fact that whether he means it or not, the fact that Donald Trump said those words today in the Oval Office, seated next to Mamdani, he said a lot more and a lot more nicer things about Mamdani than a lot of our leaders have said to date. And I think that is a problem. It also, to me, seemed like Mamdani, while he was there, grabbed Trump by the mushroom, if you will. One other thing that I just wanted to point out, especially sort of the way it came out and the way that Donald Trump was kissing that Mamdani ass, is I really didn't realize that Zoran was Bubba. But apparently, that's where we're at. Okay, next slide. We want to talk about Usha. So I posted this on X this morning. I can't believe I'm calling it X now. It's more Twitter. I woke up very early this morning. I wake up at like 5:30 on Fridays, and this event was yesterday. And the second lady and the first lady were traveling together. And it was at Camp Lejeune. And I noticed that there was no ring on the second lady's hand. And at first I thought, and of course the Republican response is, why are you like looking at her hand and obsessed with her jewelry? At first I thought maybe this photo could have been like from the other side of the podium and reversed. So I went back and I looked and I found additional photos of them getting off the plane. I saw video of them entering that area. I think many of you may have seen this. I think at one point like a fire alarm went off. Maybe somebody pulled that. And long story short, if you look her up online, Usha Vance, she always has her wedding ring on. A couple Republicans said, maybe, I'm not even going to say what they said, but they thought maybe there were reasons she wasn't wearing it. And oftentimes that, that would be, you know, on a necklace or something like that. But the reality is, if you look up photos, she always has it on. And there's been a lot of weird things going on with JD Vance, Erica, Kirk, couches, whatever. Who knows? But anyways, we pointed it out, and they can't say it's not true. It is true. She also looked happier in the photo not wearing the ring than I've seen since January. Anyways, we'll move on from that. The DNC, though, did share that. I appreciate the fact that they lifted it up. This is like the old unsolved mysteries. If you or anyone you know anything about the reason that Usha Vance is not wearing her wedding ring, please respond in the comments, and we'll lift those up. Or if you have any questions about it. All right, so Khashoggi, I'm so glad that Mary had this on the agenda today, because prior to the meeting in the Oval Office, one thing I had posted was just basically like, reminder, you know, Jamal Khashoggi, say his name. And every time we talk about Jamal Khashoggi, I get angrier and angrier, not just because of what happened to him and what they did to him, but the fact that in what was the most critical election of our lifetimes, right? How many times have you been told this is the most critical election of our lifetime? And it was. And the Washington Post decided to not endorse Kamala Harris. And one of the questions at the time I asked was, did they even take into account Trump and his administration's involvement in what happened to Jamal Khashoggi when they made that decision? So this week, Representative Eugene Vindman, Alex Vindman's brother, twin, set out to shed light on Donald's dealings with Saudi Arabia. On Tuesday, Donald welcomed Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, to the White House, very close friend of Jared Kushner's. Later, Donald blew up at a reporter who brought up the Crown Prince's role in the 2018 murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Now, Donald alleged that MBS knew nothing about the killing, okay, and that Khashoggi was some sort of controversial figure. He also added that, quote unquote, things happen. Then Vindman alleged that in 2019, as a National Security Council staffer, he was privy to, quote, a highly disturbing call between Donald and the Crown Prince. Vindman suggested, for those that haven't heard this, that the conversation, quote, would shock people if they knew what was said. Now, today, Eugene Vindman, Congressman Vindman, took another step in his quest to have the transcript of this 2019 call declassified. As the New York Times reports, and we'll pull that slide up, Vindman held a news conference with Khashoggi's widow, Hanan Latir Khashoggi. He argued that releasing the call would expose what he believes to be years of corruption in Trump's dealings with the Saudis. Now, Khashoggi's widow did speak as well. Here's what she had to say.
I heard this week something very disturbing me from President Trump about my husband. He's controversial and he's unliked. I would like to tell Mr. Trump you're expressing someone else, not Jamal Khashoggi. Jamal Khashoggi was most stable man. He was a role model to represent us as an Arabic and Muslim, and he accepts everybody regarding your ideology background as well. They try to paint him like he's a friend of Osama bin Laden or his Muslim Brotherhood, and all of this excuse. This not excuse to take his life away. There is no justification to kidnap him, torture him, and to kill him and to cut him to pieces. This is a terrorist act.
It is. She's entirely right. And, we could do a whole show on this. Many of you remember the reporting that came out. Basically, you had somebody come in that was Jamal Khashoggi to that embassy annex, and somebody that left wearing the same clothes. But there were a lot of things that happened in there. They didn't get the Apple Watch off his hand, and so forth. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, look, the fact that Donald Trump sat there, and you guys have seen a lot of videos, right, where it's kind of comparing the video of him next to MBS next to the video of him at the party with Epstein. It looks very similar. He's acting the same way. He's acted the same way his entire life. This is all about money, greed, and so forth. But Jamal Khashoggi was a true patriot. He's not controversial. He was somebody who spoke truth to power, and he spoke truth to power, not just all around the world, but to the Saudis and MBS. And just like Putin, they can't take that. And the fact that we have the best way to say this is basically, the United States is under attack by the president of the United States, right? We are completely compromised by Donald Trump right now. The fact that he would sit there and disagree with our own U.S. intelligence, and they're not just assessments. We've got concrete evidence of what actually happened here, and MBS himself ordered the killing of Khashoggi. But I thank Eugene Vindman for standing up. I hope that comes to light, and it also brings up the fact that we really need to make sure that we take back the House next year. It's going to be critically important, and it might be one of the only ways that we can actually make things like the transcript and the call and more information that Vindman is talking about actually come to light. So again, with that, Jamal Khashoggi, say his name, tweet it, post it, and I think it's incredibly important. Just taking a look, one more thing here. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on to Ukraine. Ukraine, for those that are watching right now, it's incredibly hard to get to. And by incredibly hard, I mean you can get there if you want to get there. Somehow my dad, well, I understand why my dad loves Ukraine as much as he does, but he's considering himself vacationing there right now. So he made his way to Amsterdam and then to Warsaw, and then got on a train and got on a bus, and he is currently in Ukraine. And they have just been getting rocked. And I'm excited for him to be home in January. I hope he's safe. I was talking to him yesterday because I was actually talking to Ben Mycelis from Midas Touch, and we were talking about how ridiculous and shitty this Ukraine-Russia-U.S. deal is. It shouldn't even have Ukraine in it because they haven't been involved. The Donald Trump regime has been pressuring Ukraine to accept a new peace proposal by this Thursday, Thanksgiving. The 28-point deal was crafted by quote-unquote U.S. and Russian officials. At this point, minus the civil service folks, I would just consider those all one and the same, if you're appointed by Donald Trump, with Ukraine left out of those negotiations. It's been reported that the Donald Trump regime has stressed that if Ukraine turns down the deal, they risk losing U.S. weapons and intelligence resources. Now, as many of you all remember, and I might get this slightly off, if you go back to the early 90s, I want to say maybe it was even 1991, Ukraine had probably the third or fourth largest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the entire world. And they gave those up, believing that they would be protected, okay? They could have held on to them, but they gave those up. And here we are again, except this time they're supposed to give up their country, pieces of their country, and everything else that that Putin wants, and trust that Donald Trump is going to have their back. I mean, this is a guy who literally, Donald Trump being, actually, let's talk about Putin and Trump. Donald Trump said he could end this war with one phone call. He said that during the campaign multiple times. Putin said that he could take control of Kyiv in 11 minutes. I think the last time I posted that, Julia Davis, who many of you may know, corrected me and said Putin actually said he could take Kyiv in 3 minutes. He still has never taken Kyiv. And one thing I've stated for years is that Putin has this sort of Cold War mentality where he's living in the 1980s and just views Ukraine right now as a military of, maybe 2 million people, as opposed to 40 million people. 40 million people being musicians willing to put down their instruments, Kids willing to wait to make Molotov cocktails in the kitchens with their grandmothers and grandparents, their babas, because they can't join the services. Again, Putin totally underestimated everything. When everything changed during Maidan and Yanukovych was pushed out, who now hides out in Russia, that was it. It was a big wake-up call for Ukrainians. And as long as Putin continues to view Ukrainians as the number of people in uniform only, he will never fully understand that there are 40 million people willing to give their lives to never spend a day living under him. So this deal is absolute crap. And it's just, I saw one prominent reporter last night who basically called it from Ukraine. She called it I think a stillborn. Went through these things. I do want to pull up one thing though. I posted this picture, if we have it on the back end, and I thought this was probably the best response that anybody could give to Trump. If we don't, we don't. It was. Yeah, I think it's from Kyle. So, anyways, I posted a photo of Zelensky, and it's a meme that says, "Here's a peace plan. Get the fuck out of our country." And I mean, I think that sort of encompasses it all. The fact that that Russia invades Ukraine, and I'm a Ukrainian American. We're supposed to give up pieces of our country, and they can give nothing to make Donald Trump happy. I don't know. It's a little weird. All right. We'll talk more about that. If any of you have any questions, please, especially on the Ukrainian stuff, I could talk about that all day. A couple quick announcements, though. So we have this holiday merch contest flyer that we're going to put up. Long before Donald was wrecking the country, he was wrecking family dinners, including the legendary dinner when Mary's father finally had enough and dumped an entire bowl of mashed potatoes right on Donald's head. This artwork is a lot of fun. It was messy. It was glorious. And it has become one of the most iconic Trump family stories ever told. I think it's also probably one of the biggest videos on Mary's channels, thanks to you guys. Now, Mary and me, of course, want you to bring that story to life. We're calling on all artists, designers, creative troublemakers to submit original artwork inspired by Mary's Donald Trump holiday potato head tail. The winning design will become the official Mary Trump Media holiday merch. You can submit your original design to info@marytrumpmedia.com. I feel like I should give you guys a bad email address so I can call my brother Guy, who's an artist, and be like, yo, you got to get your design in here. And I think maybe we should just highlight all of them. But anyways, info@marytrumpmedia.com. This seems like a lot of fun. I will wear it. It's right here. I tried to have my camera different setup before I spilled everything, but I put that behind me today. And by the way, as you all know, Mary is like the sweetest. My dogs got this book and jumped away with it, but like the sweetest notes, just all around great person. I've got her new book, which I'm still sort of going through because we got a bunch of kids around here. Anyways, that was supposed to be my background. Didn't work out. Anyways, in terms of this mashed potato stuff, the deadline is December 8th. That's a real deadline. That's not like the Trump healthcare plan deadline coming out. So December 8th. The winner gets your design featured on Mary Trump Media holiday merch. You get your free shirt with your winning design, and you get a shout out on Mary Trump Live. And I'm sure, knowing Mary, there'll be all sorts of other fun stuff. So anyways, bring the weird, bring the wonderful, bring the wildly creative. This reminds me of all the Kremlin annex protests that we did outside the White House. Just do fun stuff. The best ideas come from outside of Washington, D.C., as you all know, which is you, and help us turn this legendary moment into the perfect MTM holiday classic. Kyle, you're really talented. You should enter that. But anyways, good luck. May the best potato head win. On another note, Mary Trump Live will not be airing on Thanksgiving or Friday after that. I was not fully aware of that before. I'm very disappointed to hear that, as all of you are. But I'm sure Lexi and Mary and others deserve a few days off. But we will have some really fun Thanksgiving programming. So please check out what is posted around Thanksgiving. And as always, look, whatever you can do to share and like this channel. And, one thing that you may want to do if you get a chance, doesn't have to be during the show, after the show, is YouTube has a little way, even though you subscribe to Mary, there's like a little way that you can click the button and make sure that you have a bell for notifications. I noticed a week or two ago that when I had the bell, it was no longer there. So find the bell, add the bell, make sure that you get notified when she does go live. It makes a big difference. And she is so incredibly grateful for your support, as am I. And we're grateful for everyone's friendship and excited to see what comments we have here soon. All right. So emotional support moment, which, by the way, like, I feel like, yeah, we talked about that a little bit, but I need to do a better job of like carving out time to tune in for these daily, because I'll just maybe watch them when I go to bed. With that, we've reached that moment. Tonight, we're looking 200,000 light years away to small, I'm going to totally screw this up, guys, Magellanic. Kyle's on it, Cloud. You guys are going to crucify me in the comments, but that's okay. I'm a good person and not Donald Trump. But anyways, so look, a young star cluster called NGC 602 is sculpting the cosmos. Its newborn stars are sending out Magellanic Cloud. Its newborn stars are sending out radiation and shockwaves. Kind of sounds like something coming out of the White House, but probably prettier. Maybe the East Wing, and carving the surrounding gas and dust into a glowing halo. Sounds like something if Donald Trump was told not to look at, he would look at. But thanks to James Webb Telescope, astronomers have spotted the first young brown dwarfs ever seen outside the Milky Way. Enjoy the view. I mean, that was pretty majestic. Not gonna lie here. That was very nice. Let me just see really quickly here. I just want to make sure I got this right. Okay. There were two things I did want to flag really quickly, because I saw these comments earlier, and then we're going to go through anything else. Someone donated $5 and said, Adam, swear jar, good for 5 swears. Thank you. I promise I will make up for that swearing. I always never know with someone's channel. Like, if I do that, am I going to totally destroy it? And I like to be on Mary Trump's good side. And then I saw another one. Trump is going to try to introduce Zoran to Usha. Y'all are pretty effing wild. All right. So with that, I will take as many questions as you want. Illy Waka, that's a cool name. Became a YouTube member. Thank you for joining Mary's channel. Okay, Gene Hodgson. Mamdani outplayed Dump at his own game. You can tell by the way Mamdani was smiling. I think it was perfect. There was a lot of talk going into this on whether or not it would be an open meeting. I never thought it'd be an open meeting, but then the question was, what Would they make an appearance together? And it's like, it's Donald Trump. When does he not make an appearance? One time, when he is signing a Epstein bill sent over from Congress, and maybe, for all we know, doing drawings on it. Except this time, his friend and his secret is gone. So I kind of anticipated that there would be some type of visual, but really, I mean, that was just played so perfectly, and I can't wait to see Scott Jennings shit his pants on CNN tonight. I only watch CNN just to watch Scott Jennings upset. Philip Chi, 2403. Donnie told Zelensky to accept the peace proposal by next Thursday or lose access to U.S. military intelligence. Yeah, so here's the thing. What this makes me think of is, look, we know that the UK and others are already not sharing certain intelligence with us. A lot of our friends have stopped sharing intelligence with us because they can't trust that, Donald's not going to say that, or, they're not going to put it in Signal and so forth. So I think the good news is that, you've got great people out there like MI6 and others who, everyone, Poland and Germany, France, doing great work to make sure that they can do whatever they can do to share that. So I do think that we've got some incredible civil servants. We've lost a bunch of really good people, unfortunately, due to Donald Trump. But I do think that we've got an incredible group of people who understand the oath of office that they took, kind of like the video from Democrats in Congress that we recently saw that served. And the idea to me that for those of you that watch The Diplomat, many things in there are very realistic. The idea that some of these back channel relationships and contacts would go out, kind of just go dark, I don't think so. I think that there's a number of like true patriots in the government that have been there 10, 20, 30 years who will continue to share intelligence with people that they trust and do everything they can do on that end. But with that said, this goes both ways, and Ukrainians are very resilient. Super sticker, Douglas Allen, $4.99. Thank you. Appreciate everybody who steps up and chips into Mary's. Midas Cheryl is in the house. I think I've known Midas Cheryl now since 2020. Thank you for supporting Mary, and thank you for being a big supporter of the brothers. It's so good to see you tonight. Thank God it's Friday. I know. I reached out to Keith Edwards to see what he was doing tonight because I kind of can have a night to go see some friends, and he said he's going to see Wicked. Not with me, but Midas Cheryl. Cheryl, thank you. And I see you all over social, and grateful for all that you do. Richard Goodwin, 429. Thank you for chipping in to Mary Trent Media. Reminder to watch Andor if y'all haven't. I haven't. I will check it out. I've been watching a couple different things recently, some of which keep me up at night because Allie loves horrors. Susan, thank you for all that you do for everybody. And you just have been an incredible moderator. Thank you for chipping in $10 to Mary. What are your thoughts on the stunning meeting between Donald and Mamdani, GOP, Capitol Hill, or meltdown mode? Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a video, and Mary probably played it the other day, but after the House voted for whatever it was, 249 to 1, or whatever the final number was, in favor of the Massey Kana bill, it went over to the Senate. The days leading up to it, and that morning, I texted Roe that morning, and I said, good luck, brother. I've known him for years. He was with Bernie in 2016. I was with Hillary, and we used to get dinner all the time and just kind of compare notes. And despite the fact that everybody thinks everyone's on opposite sides, Roe's been a good friend. I don't always agree with him, but this was incredible. And I do think he's always open to listening. And to have gotten this done, I mean, we had heard reports that if this kind of came through, you might see 40 to 100 Republicans. No, I don't think anyone ever said you might see everybody but one. And then Mike Johnson spent, every day, probably leading up to that, where for 7-8 weeks he kept Congresswoman-elect, now Congresswoman Grijalva, out of Congress to be the 218th vote. I don't think he ever thought this was going to go to the Senate and not start getting picked apart. But John Thune had no problem humiliating and embarrassing him. And that video clip that night after the Senate overwhelmingly voted in favor of this release, bringing it kind of in full speed with the veto proof of Mike Johnson just freaking out and there's been a bunch of those moments. You guys have seen them. The moment where he walked up to Senator Kelly and Senator Gallego from Arizona, and then accused them of like playing games and coming up to him. He keeps getting caught in the hall, and every time he does, it just sort of further cements what we all know is Little Johnson. In the middle of nowhere 13. In the middle of nowhere sounds kind of fun. $20 for Mary Trump Media. Thank you for supporting Mary. Every time I see people support Mary, I get really excited because, as you all know, Donald Trump has spent endless time and energy doing anything he can to take money away from Mary Trump and fight her in court. So it goes a long way. If Zoran really wants to win over New Yorkers, he'll figure out how to have the ball drop with places to pee for the crowd. Okay, places to pee for the crowd. A classic drawback to attending in person. He already is a winner today. It was perfection. I agree. Now, I've never gone there, and I kind of always tune in like a minute or two before, where like I'm looking at my phone and it appears to have already been midnight, but you just sort of go with the flow because nothing really works, although it's getting kind of tighter. But last year I tuned in like half an hour early just because I find Anderson Cooper so entertaining when he's drinking. And hearing the stories about everybody that have been there all day wearing diapers and stuff, I just had no idea that was like a thing. So I don't plan on ever doing that, until I'm forced to wear a diaper at old age. But yeah, that sounds like a good idea, especially if New York City could figure out a way to do that in a safe way, because obviously they have been a major target for years and years of terrorism. Cookies, 1171. Donnie was nice to give Gavin Newsom was nice to get Gavin Newsom on the phone, then trashed his name right after. It's going to be interesting. I just want to say, like, on Gavin Newsom, I will say this. There are very few people in this party, whether elected or non-elected, and by that I mean a Jasmine Crockett or a Gavin Newsom or a Mary Trump, or people that step up and run for these really tough seats that are some of the best communicators and fighters in our party that we sort of forget about a year or two after because they did the right thing and they tried. For instance, Val Demings, right? I think Val Demings is one of the best kind of communicators and somebody that could prosecute Donald Trump in ways that others couldn't, just through communicating. But she stepped up and she fought the good fight, and she's no longer here. So I'm very curious to see what happens with all of these folks. But I will say the interesting thing about Gavin Newsom is not only is he doing, I'm not saying anything you guys haven't heard. Not only is he running an incredible opposition resistance campaign online to this administration, but he was very early to do stuff long before others. I remember back in 2002, 2003, I just started working for Hillary Clinton, and everyone said his political career was dead because he came out in support of gay marriage and wanted to make sure that that community had the ability to get married. And that was it. That was the end of him. That's what people thought. And here he is. So he was ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff. And then there's a couple things he did that I think he was just really fucking stupid on. Curse word number one in the jar. That would be having like a Steve Bannon or a Charlie Kirk or others. I get that you can triangulate stuff and say you want to have different voices. I don't think we should be platforming any of those people. But with that said, we're never going to agree with somebody 100% of the time. I think he continues to make up for it day after day. And his wife is definitely his much better half, and she is a powerhouse of her own. Nanner, 3,200, $5. Adam Swearjar. Okay, yeah, that was the one. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so fucking much. I really appreciate it. That's number 2. CY Blur. What could be Kai Blur? MAGA are twisting in their straitjackets tonight after watching this interview. I mean, literally. The thing is, though, is like these, look, we're seeing cuts to and dramatic changes to like nurses and nursing education and just everything, right? They want to get rid of the Department of Education altogether. And then you look at the voters, you know, those that are educated or highly educated and so forth, those without any education are on the Donald Trump side. So I don't know. I mean, like I could see a bunch of these people sitting, you know, walking around, you know, MAGA folks that like have MAGA and then they like with Sharpies finish the M, you know, finish the M on the start with Mamdani down the side. They're just, everything is projection, right? Donald Trump and his mortgage fraud with the casinos and all that that's coming out right now. That's why he goes after Tish James and Adam Schiff and others. They just follow him. So the reality is that it's all projection. They're sheep. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, a bunch of them are chipping into Mamdani tonight. But outside that 38%, the ones that sort of go back and forth, they're probably freaking the fuck out. That would be curse word number 3, I suppose. Carol Thomason, 2,200, love 22. I was born on the 22nd. I wonder if JD's Vance is mean to his wife. Wow. Look at that photo. Look, I think he's mean to his wife publicly. I think that anybody who would be the vice president of the United States or not the vice president of the United States and publicly say and trash their wife's religion and talk about them coming around or touch Erica Kirk the way that he did, I don't think he's a good person. I think he's a liar. I have been on CNN debating JD Vance before JD Vance is the JD Vance that he is now. He's a loser. He's full of shit. I think there's a bunch of people that know that his story and his book has tons of holes in it, you know, almost like it's Swiss cheese. I think there's a bunch of actors and actresses that wish they were never involved in that film. And he's a total fraud. And he has been for years and years. But when I used to go on CNN with him, he was like, again, the soy boy cuck that everybody describes. I remember being on with him shortly after Hillary lost, and he just sat there and listened. And then when I was done talking, he was, you know, promoting his own shit. So I think he is probably a terrible person to her. Donnie couldn't care less about Khashoggi from Ronnie Steinberg. And that's so true. But, you know, I think one thing that I've noticed is like the bar may be here right now for a reporter in terms of like if they do, I'm not even calling this the bare minimum. If let's just say if they do their job, what like something that you would expect of them. And then you've got the folks down here that are like, I don't know, like the New York rat that is in a relationship with Marjorie Taylor Greene, whoever that guy is. But the people right here or above, you know, like an Abby Phillip. I think Caitlin Collins has been doing really well. Or that reporter from ABC. Do you notice a common theme? It's all women. And I think that says a lot. It could be a basic question, but not only that, she asked the question that needed to be asked while Donald Trump had MBS sitting next to him and people already have to fear for their safety. He said all this shit to her that he did. She kept her cool and continued to ask follow-up questions. And so I have huge respect right now for women in the press. I think that they are going above and beyond. And you see how Donald Trump responds, you know, between the piggy and all this other shit. I'm not referring to Dana Bash, though. I put her down here with Jake Tapper and Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend. Pure Kodiak Wild Power. That sounds cool. MAGA peace plans don't work. Yeah, I mean, look, I could talk about this for hours and hours. I think there was some troll in the comments that was sitting here. It looks like, what time is it? It's kind of late in Russia right now, but it looks like, GRU and others working hard for Putin in the comments trying to talk about, look, this is Ukrainians, they know how to fight. They're not going to give up. And they're tired of people making decisions for them. When at the height of the NATO talk, when people were saying, we really got to get Ukraine into NATO and all that kind of stuff, which I agree with. But I said, watching this war play out in the first 2 years, the war that Russia started, this is a Russian war. I said, the next time somebody is attacked or goes to war, they're going to be calling for Ukraine's help, not NATO. And Ukraine has done an incredible job. They've learned a lot over the years. There's a lot of really great tech workers and others. I mean, there's a ton of white hat hackers over there that do good work all over the world. But they've got their shit together. And literally, many of you know these reports, but the Russian military is a disaster. Not only do they have the draft going, but you've got people that have been in and out of the hospital 2-3 times that they're putting back out there. You've got people missing limbs with crutches that are literally being sent back out by Putin to continue to fight. And because of the state-controlled media back home, they're not hearing about the number of deaths. They're not hearing about the number of body bags coming back. And, they don't get the straight story on anything. How much have we talked about Navalny? I mean, this is a guy who has just destroyed a country, continues to ruins good people that could actually bring good things. And it's a country where people literally still have outhouses. I mean, they're living in the past. And it's like Putin's mentality, right? If you take away someone's heat and toilet paper for a week and you give it back to them, they're going to be happy. And that is the kind of fucking shit he has done for years and years and years. I guess that's curse word number 4. Ronnie Steinberg. Trump told us for ages by his behaviors that he is on Russia's side and everything. Yeah, I mean, look, there's been some interesting, I don't know if it was Michael Wolff, who, again, I don't even agree with a bunch of the stuff that I've seen recently come out that he was involved in emails with Jeffrey, but there's been some stuff that's come out recently, including about Melania's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein prior to Donald Trump. And there's a lot of things that we don't know. If you go back to the first, I guess we'll call it first Donald Trump regime, where they were, less organized and didn't have Project 2025, 2026 going. There were so many weird things that to this day are still unanswered. For instance, Rand Paul took a letter to Putin on behalf of Donald Trump. To this day, I don't think even our U.S. intelligence agencies know what was inside that sealed letter that he took over there. And there's been a lot of that going on. I mean, remember all the reports that came out in between the first Trump regime and the second Trump regime about the Saudis and others and all the numbers of cell phones they had where they were able to reach Trump. I don't know. What do you think? Is the P tape real? Let me know in the comments. Okay, Elmo up north. My most recent son loves Elmo. He wore Elmo socks this morning. Man, it's an Elmo red. Remember how Trump made a deal with Afghanistan without Afghanistan and left it as a poison pill for Biden? Totally. I mean, there was a deadline. This is always one of those things. Could we have handled it better? I mean, you can always Monday morning quarterback, but the entire story, I remember seeing the planes taking off with people holding on to the aircraft and falling off on the runway. That was malpractice on so many levels. It was set up for failure. And the entire story was about how Joe Biden failed in Afghanistan and not about how Donald Trump set Joe Biden up to fail in Afghanistan. It's very sad. Susan with another $10. So kind. Check out the channel homepage. Click on post for holiday merch, contest information, instructions. Yeah, the mashed potato. I mean, you guys got to do this. Leave this up for a second. And just want to go back here really quickly. Okay, I've lost a number of things today. So not only did I spill a drink on my keyboard and myself, there goes the backup charger, but that's okay. Info@marytrumpmedia.com. Info@marytrumpmedia.com. Don't forget, Susan, thank you for making sure that everyone has that information. And thank you for kicking out the Kremlin trolls. Dawn Adoring, maybe 4214. I'm wondering if we can send the entire Trump regime to the new tiny moon. I mean, I would love that. I just, you're making me think of one thing that Mary said to me years ago. And I always said, how is Donald Trump still around when he eats the way that he eats? And I'm thinking of this and also the fact that he spoke to McDonald's. And she goes, Adam, because he's literally preserved. All he eats is preservatives. He's going to outlive all of us. He's going to be around forever. That's what happens when that's all you eat. But I would love to see him take a ship with, Elon and others and let us know how Mars is. Grumpy Cat XX. 1X away from being inappropriate. What a waste of mashed potato. Yeah. I mean, who knows how the family made them, but what I love about that story is Mary lost her father at a very young age. But it's a story that she knows, she laughs about, she thinks about often thanks to you guys. And it's something that you guys have helped carry on in terms of her father's legacy, which doesn't need to be rewritten by documentaries and others. So thank you for that. Cheryl Clark, 9765. He attacks women because he hates women. Men reporters need to step up and defend our women reporters. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm always trying to be honest. I watched, and you guys may have seen it. There was a clip on Instagram. I think I saved it. I'm going to find it and post it. And it was like maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes. And it was everything. It was the Access Hollywood tape. It was, I mean, there were probably 40 things on there I've never even heard before. And this guy is just fucking sick, but he is not, I think it was jar number 4. He has not changed at all. There was and for those that have seen it, you may remember or wondering if you've seen it. There was a woman who was an attorney doing a deposition with Donald Trump, and they needed to take a break because she needed to breastfeed. And he just told her how disgusting she was over and over and over again. And then you've got all the other inappropriate stuff. He is just a terrible person, but he hasn't changed. He has been this way his whole life. So I'm not, not sure what some people out there thought was going to change. I think there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that seem to love the show of him that are misogynists and are disgraceful people that continue to support him while feeling the impact worse and worse of his policies every single day. Broken, all broken. All right. Well, let's fix you. Yes, survivor stories are also incredible. I don't think I could do it. Yeah. I worked for DC Police as a reserve for 15 years, but I also worked at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for 3 years. And what these women are doing is not only incredibly hard and courageous, but they are authoritative, they're believable, and every time they have to talk about this, they are re-victimized. And a number of people, when you have these cases that go to court, a number of these victims, they sign letters or they will testify in cases, for instance, child pornography. You have a number of people where their photos have been used over and over and over again with different people convicted, and they get an opportunity to put a letter in or talk about it, but they are re-victimized every single time, and all they want is justice. And a number of people have said, why don't they like come together and release names and all that stuff? And if you talk to them, most of them have come together and they've talked about the names, and they know they've compared notes. They've talked about this for years. They know exactly who there is. But if they were to come out and do that, everything they have done to rebuild every aspect of their life, whether that is their freedom, getting a house, going to school, everything will be lost because just one person on that list of however many, I mean, it is endless, could sue them and they could lose it all. So I think the restraint that they've shown while being authoritative and working so hard on this really says so much about them, because, you know, they could blurt anything out at any time, and they at every single moment have gone about this the way that they need to. And as you know, some of them aren't even here with us anymore. But thankfully, at least for Virginia, her family is out there continuing to advocates for her, and she was able to get her story out there as written by her. Mission, we'll go with RD 100. If something good happens, Trump takes credit for it and MAGA believes it. Yeah, totally. I mean, we spent all this time talking about the price of eggs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I for a number of reasons, I watch USDA. I watch Secretary Rollins multiple times a week. She is so full of shit. Okay, that'll be number 5. And she has no idea what she's talking about, but also she's never on the same page. I think we've been lied to about a bunch of, as I said earlier, sales of soybeans and other stuff over the last 2 months. You know, these bushels and things they've been talking about have not been going on. And every single thing that Donald Trump says to try to fix the chaos that he's creating, like, for instance, there's going to be an investigation into, you know, the beef market and all that kind of stuff. It never, it sounds good. And you know, cattle ranchers and others, they get excited about it like it's going to happen, but it never comes to fruition, right? It's just like the healthcare plan. You could go back, and I know Amy Siskin had done this for a long time, and keep track of all this and take a look. But the thing is that, like, most of us, our memory now, just think about it. It's like, it's gone, right? How many people remember just a couple days ago, we finally heard the story from one of the victims of Matt Gaetz, you know, who talked about using the money for Matt Gaetz to pay for her braces to get her teeth fixed. That was just a couple days ago. I don't even think it's been a week. So we can't forget about this stuff. You can't get jaded. And the only people coming to save us are ourselves and Mary Trump. Bonnie Fisher, 6546. The dementia is just shredding the small filter he once had. Yeah. I mean, I was watching a clip of RFK Jr. this morning, and I was like, wow, I think, like, the brainworm is like all in for Thanksgiving early. He's eating by himself. There's not much left there. It was like, I think it was like 13 or 60 seconds before he could get the word out that he was getting. And I probably sound the same, but you know, that's because of a couple little kids running around. But yeah, there's been a lot of changes, and there's been weird stuff that has happened, right? And you can see, I mean, you look back 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. I mean, the fact that let's just go off the stuff that we can see, right? Like, whether there's something, you know, in his pants, collecting his urine, who the hell knows? I don't want to know. It's disgusting, but he doesn't even look to like a try when he puts makeup there. He has had that kind of stuff going on forever. He went to Walter Reed for a physical. Okay. Supposed to do that. I'm sure we were lied to about it. But then he went back to Walter Reed and talked about what a great MRI he got. But he couldn't talk about why he got an MRI. I think the only thing he didn't say is that, like, his MRI would be better than AOC or Jasmine Crockett's if they got an MRI. I don't think he even knows what it is. He fell asleep fell asleep while RFK Jr. was talking about, people with diabetes and obesity and sunsetting and everything else. Anyways, I mean, there's a lot more than that, but this is what you would expect from a guy who, stared in the clips. Champagne hand. Thank you from Canada, I think, for $2 for chipping in to marry Trump. I hope my dad is safe too. I know he's getting old, but I think he thinks every trip is going to be his last trip, and he has to go out there and do it. And we're excited to have him back. But thank you for that. Appreciate it. Susan is back. Overtime fee. Thank you, Adam, for in-depth conversation tonight. I appreciate your insights. I know, and Susan, we got to catch up at some point. I owe you a follow-up, but I am incredibly grateful for all you've been doing since Mary launched this channel, as well as the folks that you work with as moderators. And you're awesome. And I said to Lexi earlier, I'm like, we will just go as long as anyone has anything, because this was a lot of fun last time. And I didn't expect to start out with pouring stuff all over me and the keyboard, but it dried out and here we are. And thank you, Susan, for sharing that. And Kyle, Kyle has am I at 4 or 5? I'll just do this one. Okay. You're telling me the guy grabbing the pussy is in the Epstein files. I believe so, Kyle. That would probably be the last one, curse word wise. But if Lexi has anything else, I'm pretty sure I spilled all over my phone too. Kyle's cracking me up over here. I'm always waiting for one of these where I spell it out, and I'm like, did I just say that? But this one is C-Root Prime 2641. Ukraine is at the forefront of drone warfare innovation. From what I've seen, we should be doing everything we can for them. I agree. I went and spoke. Actually, Eugene Vindman was one of the speakers there too. I went and spoke at a Ukrainian forum in DC, and we talked a lot about this. And they have so many different scientists and tech folks that are like ahead of the curve and incredible. But what happened is a lot of the and also education wise, same thing. They teach us stuff. A lot of those things were bombed, and so we've got all these incredible students and graduates and others that were working on the stuff that no longer have those places to work over there. But I mean, the videos are incredible. You guys have seen them. I saw one the other day of an older man who just put his hands up in the air and grabbed a drone and threw it to the ground. That probably would have exploded somewhere else, but they're doing really well. And I think that they're outplaying Putin in ways that he just hasn't realized. And we've seen this a lot, by the way, as you all know, like a lot of this is sort of just a facade, right? You only need a certain percentage of people to turn. And there was that moment during the war where one of Putin's main guys, in that hired military started to turn around, and obviously Putin had him killed. But there was a moment where we were wondering, like in the next day or two, is somebody going to take the Kremlin? I just don't think they are as strong as we think they are. The problem is you have a madman with a bunch of nuclear weapons who's getting older. And one thing we know about him is he has lied about his age and his height his entire life. And whatever age you can find, he is probably 2 or 3 years older than that. He hates everything about him, himself, and he hates his biography out there. He was the child of a prostitute, and he has done everything he can do to make sure that that is wiped clean of the internet and so forth. I mean, he was an orphan who basically was brought up at the Red Banner Institute, which was where they trained KGB agents at the time. He was the dumbest in his class, street smart, but dumb educationally wise. So when he got out, they put him in St. Petersburg, and he literally carried bags and bought beers for people, but he worked his politics and worked his way up. Trump Whoppers, 1984. I was born in 85. Turned 40 in October, but we're still standing here. What could possibly be the business model for buying the Miss Teen USA pageant? I mean, I assume when it comes to this stuff, a lot of it is tax write-offs, nonprofits, and him being around underage girls. One thing Michael Cohen has said a number of times to me is, like, don't try to dissect what Donald Trump is doing or saying. If you see him doing or saying something, that's what he's going to do, and that's what he's going to say. And so I think him purchasing anything Miss Teen USA is the same, as him saying if Ivanka wasn't his daughter, he probably would want to be her boyfriend or marry her. All right. I think with that, we're probably going to wrap up. Unless there's anything else. But you guys are the best. Special shout out to Lexi, Kyle, Dennis, everybody else who work behind the scenes to make this happen. Lexi all the time. And Mary, thank you for letting me help you take a day off. You guys are incredible. I can't wait to see you guys soon.